Okay. So in the last session, we discussed about what does it mean by Oracle Fusion Cloud applications and where we can use the term called as cloud, where we should not use, what are the reasons, those points we discussed. And we discussed about different cloud options. We have SaaS, PaaS, IaaS. In SaaS and PaaS only you can get the application access. And what is possible in SaaS and in PaaS, those points also we discussed. The primary difference is in SaaS you cannot do the major customizations that is allowed in the PaaS. But in SaaS the advantage is auto upgrades. Here that is not possible. So these are the key points we discussed. And the other important point we discussed is most of the clients are using the SaaS subscriptions. Now, if you are going to use this Oracle Fusion Cloud applications for your client, how many instances we get? Okay, the software product what we get to do this implementation, so that we call as instance. Okay, we call it as instance. By default, every client will get 2 instances. You can call it as instance. In cloud, you call it as pod also. POD pod, like iPod. Okay. So we'll get 2 instances. One is for testing purpose, test instance. Other one is production instance. Like during the implementation time to test everything, the business scenarios as per the requirement, we'll use this test instance. If everything is working fine, the same solution will implement in the production. Production is the one which client will use it. So this you can call as a pre-prod also. Okay, test instance you can call as pre-prod. This is a production instance. And if any additional instances are required for any company, they have to pay extra to get. By default, we get only 2 instances. If you are going to do any sort of customizations, yes, customizations also, if you are okay, you can do in the test instance only. You can do customizations, you can test. If everything is fine, those you can move to production. Otherwise, if you are going to subscribe the PaaS for your company, your client, then you can go for one more instance called as development instance. You can take one more instance that you can use as for development purpose, that you can call as dev instance or development instance. Okay, this is a point which you have to understand what is the landscape of the instances in case of Oracle Fusion Cloud application. Only we get 2. If you need extra, we have to pay and you can get from Oracle. Any questions on this point, please? Okay, fine. When you get access to the instance, Oracle will provide one username and password. With that credentials, you can connect to that instance and you can create everything whatever we required as per client requirement. So when we get a access to the instance, the user whatever you are going to use, whatever the user you are going to have, like say user is ERPTREE, the user requires certain privileges. Okay, to work on the instance as a Oracle implementation consultant, to work as implementation consultant to do the implementation as per business requirement, the user required access to roles. Okay, user required access to roles. The roles, basically we require access to 2 roles. Those roles are application implementation consultant. One role is application implementation consultant, another role is IT security manager. Okay, these 2 roles are required for consultants. What is the purpose we require these 2 roles? The application implementation consultant role will give the access to do the setups in the system. We can do the setups. To implement any applications, we have to do the setups, or you can call it as configuration. We have to do the system configuration. To do the system configuration or to do the system related setups, to use any application, we need application implementation consultant role. This role we have to associate to the user so that the user will have a full privileges in the system to do the setups. And another role is IT security manager. So this role is required to create the new users. So when you are doing the implementation for any company, there will be a number of users who has to work on the system. And we can create the new users with the help of IT security manager role, and we can assign the roles. So there is one employee who is working for payables department. To give the access to payables application, we have to assign the payables roles to that user. Every application will have a separate roles. So which user is working for which application, accordingly we have to assign the roles that we can do from IT security manager. There are a few more other points which you have to understand about IT security manager. Going forward, we'll discuss and we'll go through all the information. For now, this is a simple point which you have to take a note. Okay. When you get access to fresh instance means there won't be any sample data. Okay, when you are working for any client, will get access to fresh instance. When you get access to fresh instance, we can create, Oracle will provide one user. With that you can log into the instance and you can create your own user to proceed with the implementation related activities. When you create your own user, minimum which roles we have to assign? Two roles we have to assign. One is application implementation consultant role, other one is IT security manager role. With the help of application implementation consultant role, what we can do? We can do the setups, or you can say we can do the configuration. And IT security manager role will allow the user to create the users to assign the roles to that user. From where you can do the setups in the system. Okay, from where we can do the setups. We have an environment called as FSM. FSM stands for Functional Setup Manager. Okay, we have a FSM, Functional Setup Manager. With the help of Functional Setup Manager, you can do all the setups. That means the application implementation consultant role will give us the access to FSM. With the help of FSM, you can do the setups. When you assign the IT security manager role to any user, that user can create the users, new users, and the user can assign the roles to users. To perform these activities, user creation, role assignments, we have a security console. We have a security console. Within the security console, you can create the users and you can assign the roles to users. That means the IT security manager role will give the access to user to the security console. With the help of security console, the user will be able to create the new users as well as the roles can be assigned to the users. So this is a simple point we have to understand. These two roles like administrator privileges, full privileges to the system to do the setups or to create the users, to manage the security. These two roles are required for every consultant. Based on these two roles, we can start doing the setups and what sequence we have to follow. Everything we'll see in our classes. Any questions on this point, please? Any questions here, please?
Hi Lakshmi. So these two roles are to just set up and to assign the roles. That's it. Not for implementation, right?
Correct. To do the implementation, these two roles, first role application implementation consultant role to do the implementation, to implement payables, to implement receivables, take any application. To any application, if you want to implement, we require access to application implementation consultant role. And IT security manager, it's only for users creation role assignments. So whatever the roles Oracle is providing, apart from that, you can create our own roles. Those we call as custom roles. That also you can do within the IT security manager role only. Those we'll discuss. Okay, just for now, you take this point.
Okay, actually, my question is
Yeah, please go ahead.
in payables, we create purchase invoices, we create payments, right? Those we can do
Payables, yes. In payables, we
using this implementation consultant role. And security manager role.
Yeah. See, in payables, if you want to use the payables to create the purchase invoices and the payments, you cannot create directly purchase invoices, payments, payables. First of all, you have to set up the payables. You have to implement the payables. You have to configure. To do that setup, we need application implementation consultant. Okay. With the help of application implementation consultant, you can implement the payables. After implementing, if you want to create the purchase invoice and the payments, we have to use payable specific roles. Okay, with application implementation consultant role, you can do only setups. You see the point here written here, setups only. You cannot create any transactions. If you want to create the transaction in any application, that application specific roles you have to use.
Okay. Understand.
Yep.
Thank
Any
you.
questions? Fine. No questions. Okay. So now we'll go and create the user. Okay, we'll create one user and we'll assign the roles and we'll verify so whether the user will have access to FSM or not, security console, etc. We'll go through those points. Okay. Now we'll connect to the instance and we'll just create the user and we will assign the roles and we'll discuss few points. So this is a cloud instance. Now we'll log into the instance. When you are working for our client, you will get the login credentials. With the same user, you can log in and you can create your own user and you can proceed with the implementation related activities. Now here I am going to use one user to log into this instance. Okay, when you are going to practice, we will share one user. Okay, the user credentials, the username and password. With the same, you can connect to the instance and create your own user by following the process what we are going to do now. Okay, I'm going to log into the instance as a user called as fa.student. Sign in. This is a cloud instance. Now what we want to do? We want to create the user. Okay, we'll go and create the user. So we'll understand all these points what you could see here. Okay, step by step. But now let's focus on user creation process. So here in the left side you can see the bars that you can call as navigator. Okay, this vision is the logo. You can upload any company logo that would be displayed here. Somebody uploaded here as a name as a vision as a company logo in this instance. Now click on this navigator icon, bars. From where we can create the user. User you can create from the security console. Okay. So user you can create from the security console. If you want to go to security console, that user required access to IT security manager. The current user, whatever you are using as fa.student, this user got access to IT security manager role. So from this user, you can create the another user. So first what we have to do, once you log into the instance, we'll be landing on this page. Click on the navigator, scroll little down, and you can find the tools section. Tools, expand the tools. Under tools, go to security console. Okay, just click on security console. We are able to see the security console task. Everything what we deal here, we call it as a task. We can find one task called as security console under tools. We are able to see the security console here means this user got access to application implement IT security manager role. Okay, this fa.student user have access to IT security manager role. When user got access to IT security manager role, then only you can see the security console under tools section. Now just click on security console. It will take us to security console page so that we can create the user. Okay, we are here. Now select users. Okay, just select users. Select users. And here you can find add user account tab. Click on add user account. Provide the username, the last name. I'm giving the name as ERPTREE. Okay, the same name system is defaulting as a username. And we have to set the password and we have to confirm the same. First we'll assign the roles. After assigning the roles, we will set the password. Okay, if we given the last name and username, you can provide email ID and first name if required, but that information is completely optional. Now to this user, we have to assign these two roles to have a full privileges to the instance to work as a consultant. Click on add role. The role name is application implementation consultant. Search for application implementation. Now you can find many roles here which are starting with application implementation. You could say application implementation administrator, application implementation consultant, the application implementation manager. Few roles are copied in this environment. Yes, we can copy the roles. We have a session called as role customization. In that session, we'll see how to copy the role, how to modify the roles, how to create the new roles, nothing but custom roles, how to compare the roles. We'll discuss all those points. But now we don't need to focus on this copy role, etc. Not required. What role we require? Application implementation consultant. Along with that, we have application implementation administrator roles and manager roles. But we don't need administrator manager roles. The reason is the consultant role will have a full privileges compared to administrator and manager. So always select application implementation consultant role. Just type application implementation consultant. So here you could see two copies. Application implementation consultant, application implementation consultant. Two copies we have, and role codes are different. One role code is starting with ASM, other code is starting with ORA_ASM. You can select any one of the role. Both roles will have the same privileges. The same roles, these first two roles they copied, and you could see here the copied one. It is starting with ASM, this is starting with ORA. These roles, two roles are copied from these two roles. Now always choose exact role which Oracle is providing. These roles we call as seeded roles. What are the roles Oracle is providing? Those roles we call as seeded roles. Okay, we call as seeded roles. These two roles are seeded roles. Okay, what are the roles Oracle is providing along with the application? Those roles we call as seeded roles. Nothing but fundamental roles or basic roles. Fine. Now select any one of the role in the first two roles. Doesn't make any difference. I'm selecting the first one. The role name is application implementation consultant. Select. Click on that record, application implementation consultant. Click on add role membership. Nothing but assign role to user. We are going to assign application implementation consultant role to user. Click on add role membership. The role will be assigned. The background you can see the role is assigned to the current user, and we have to assign one more role to this user to create the new users and to do the role assignments, etc. So search for the same role, IT security manager. Okay, IT security manager. Here role name is same, role codes are different. You can pick any one of the role. Okay, both roles will have the same privileges. You can select any one of the role and click on the same record and say
Hi Lakshman, sorry to interrupt. You are saying both roles have same privileges, right?
correct.
There are same privileges. Why Oracle gave two things? One is enough, right?
You'll understand when we talk about role customization. Okay, since you are asking the question now, I'll answer to that. Say IT security manager. So two roles, same privileges. What is the difference? The role code which is starting with ORA that you cannot modify. This role you can modify. That is the difference. Okay.
And below four are there.
Modifications. One second. When we are going to do the modifications, I thought to discuss this point. Since you are asking, that is a point you have to understand. Please.
And actually, four are there, right? Four roles are there below.
Read
Dot
role
copy,
name.
dot copy.
You just read role names. Can you read 4 role names?
IT security manager, IT security manager, IT security manager copy, IT security manager copy. So copy means?
Copy means these roles somebody copied.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what.
Okay, somebody copied roles also we can use?
No, we should not. After copying, they may do some modifications. That's what I am telling. Whatever Oracle is providing, use it so that there won't be an issue. I can copy this and I can do the modifications. I can remove all the privileges what we have inside of the role. Then no use of that role if you are going to use. Don't touch the roles which are created by someone else or copied by someone else. Use whatever the seeded roles Oracle is providing. These 2 roles are seeded. You can use any one of them. When it comes to customization, so this you cannot modify, this you can modify. Those points we'll discuss later. That is the reason I said I was not talking about. Yep.
Understood.
Any one of them. Assign to the user. Select the role. Click on add role membership. Click on done. So we created user and we assign these 2 roles. Okay, what is assignable auto provisioning? We will discuss. Here we have a separate functionality called as auto provisioning roles. For that we have to create many setups. Then only we can test that functionality. For now, let's focus on how to create user and how to assign the roles. Which roles we are assigning? 2 roles: application implementation consultant and IT security manager. These 2 roles we have to assign. Now you can set the password for this user. Here you could see password policy. Okay, policy is very simple. At least 8 characters, 1 number. By following that policy rule, you can set the password. Confirm the password and say save and close. Click on save and close. Done. We created a user. If you want to see the same user, here you can search for the same ERPTREE. Click on search. The display name is ERPTREE. The user name is ERPTREE. And the status of the user is active, locked, no. The user is not locked. If you want to reset the password or if you want to delete this user, yes, that is possible. You can go to actions. Click on actions. So if you want to log this user account, you can log it. Once you log, you cannot log in to the instance with this user. Reset password. If you want to reset the password for this user, you can do it. If you want to delete the user, yes, you can delete it. Even after performing the setups and after creating the transactions also, you can delete this user. That flexibility Oracle given, but ideally that should not be there. In Fusion, you could say user deletion is possible. We'll see how to reset the password for this user. Click on reset password. Select manually change the password. Here you can set the password. Confirm the same. Just click on reset password. So that's how you can change the password for existing user.
I had a quick question, if you don't mind.
Please.
So in the roles, when you assigned IT security manager and application implementation consultant, did you check off any of the assignable checkboxes?
No. So these are the 2 roles which you have to assign to do this configuration and to deal with the users and the roles. And for each application we have a separate roles, but those roles we can use only to record the transactions. And similar to application implementation consultant, we have a few roles, but those roles doesn't have a full privileges to the entire system related configuration. So the complete privileges you can have within the application implementation consultant role. That is the reason these two we assign. Only these two are enough for consultants. Once we do the required setups, you can assign the additional roles which are application specific, and there will be additional activity also which you have to do along with the role assignment.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Lakshman,
The sequence. We'll just go in the sequence so that everything will become easy, but it may take some time to connect all those points. Yeah. Any other questions here, please?
Lakshman, can we say responsibilities in EBS as roles in fusion?
I'll compare that point also. For now, not required. Just when we talk about ledger and all primary ledger, there I'll connect to that point. The people who are EBS background, it could be functional or technical. Definitely, I'll include the points which will help you to understand in terms of relevance.
Okay, thank you.
We'll see that. Yeah. Any other questions here, please?
Lakshman, actually, suppose say we have taken the subscription for 5 users, and as you know, users comes and goes from organization. So later on, if we log the account of one employee user, so will it count for
active users only? They will count active users because these are going to be the instances are going to be managed by Oracle. Easily they can track. They can conduct the audit.
Okay, so means like if somebody goes from the organization and another person comes, so we can replace the previous employees with a new
user. You can stop and you can create new user. You don't need to replace with the user. Okay, that you inactivate, or else you can keep as active, but don't use that user to perform the transactions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Any other questions here? Okay. So done. So we created a user. Okay. So we have seen how to reset the password also. And don't delete the user. No need to log the user for testing also. Done. Now we log into the instance from this ERPTREE user. Now you can sign out. Click on the username. It will open the panel. Click on sign out. Click on confirm. Now we can log into the instance with the user whatever we created. So we created a user called as ERPTREE. Provide password. Okay, done. Now for this user we assigned IT security manager role. If you assign IT security manager role to any user, that user should get access to security console. We'll go and verify. This user should get access to security console. Whether this user got access or not, we'll go and check it. How to check? Go to navigator. Under tools, you can see security console task. That means this user got access to IT security manager role. Okay, you can click on security console. Now we are in the security console page. If you want to create the users, yes, you can create from here. That means this ERPTREE user got access to IT security manager role. Because of that IT security manager role, we are able to access to security console. Done. Other role is application implementation consultant. The application implementation consultant role will allow the user to do the setups. If user wants to do the setups, the user required access to FSM. We'll go and verify the user got access to FSM or not. Okay. So here, go to user, click on username, and it is opening on panel. Within that panel, you can find one task called as everything we call as a task. Okay, we can see one task called as setup and maintenance. When you see the task called as setup and maintenance, that will help us to navigate to FSM page, function setup manager page, from where we can do the setups. That's what the name also they given, setup and maintenance. Okay, so click on setup and maintenance task. This should navigate us to FSM home page. So this is FSM home page. From here you can do the setups. Say you want to do the setups for financials. Here you can select financials. Select financials. So you want to do the setups for general ledger application. Here select general ledger. Here say all tasks. Now these are the setups which are available for general ledger application. You want to implement say receivables application. Select receivables. Here select all tasks. These are the receivable related setups. The same way, if you want to implement fixed assets, select fixed assets. Okay, select fixed assets. Here you can select all tasks. Okay, and you can complete this setups from here. We have a different options to do the setups. We will discuss three options. We have three places we have to do the setups. First one is FSM. From here you can do the setups as per the business requirement, or what are the basic setups are required for each and every application. That means the ERPTREE user got access to FSM also. Okay, ERPTREE user got access to FSM. So this is what we have to understand about the user creation. Any questions on user creation, please? User creation, under these two roles we assign. Accordingly, the user is able to have access to FSM and to security console. Any other questions from anyone, please? No questions. Now let's talk about FSM. What is the use of FSM? We discussed we have to do the setup in the system. For that we use FSM. Along with that, we have to understand few other points also. In the last session we discussed we have different product families, right? Okay, these are the different product families. These are the different product families. These different product families, as per FSM, in the fusion we call as offerings. Financials we call as offering. SCM we call as offering. Procurement, HCM, CRM, PPM, everything we call as offering. Each product family we call as offering in fusion within the FSM environment. So financials we are calling as offering. Within the financials we have a different applications, right? We have a payables, we have a receivables, assets, general ledger, cash management. These are the different applications. Financials we are calling as offering. And what about the applications what we have within the financials? The applications we call as options. Okay, each application we call as one option. So just this is a terminology we have to remember. As per FSM, the product families we call as offering, and within any offering, what are the applications we have, those we call as options. You take example of SCM. In SCM we have inventory. Inventory is one option. Purchasing is one option. Okay, the different applications what we have, all we call as options. Offerings and options. Offering is nothing but product family. Option is nothing but specific application. Okay, so these are the points we have to understand. Any questions on this, please?
So any general implementation project, like for one offering, different options are there. So a consultant set up for all options in a one offering, or different consultants setups for different options in one offering.
Yeah, that totally depends on the client size. Say, one client may go for only financials implementation. In that case, we are unable, just we can proceed with the financial offering. That they may implement all the options or specific options. Client may says we need uh, general ledger, payables and receivables. We don't need assets and cash management. In that case, what are the options client required from specific offering? Accordingly, we do the implementation. Whether it should be done by one consultant or multiple consultant, that totally depends on the client size. In some companies, a very small organization means the entire financials can be handled by one consultant. In some clients, maybe for finance, you could see two consultants. In very big organizations, for one option, there will be multiple consultants. That totally depends. Okay. So what, whether that is SaaS or PaaS, again, if it is a SaaS, like in how many countries we are doing the implementation, or else it is a PaaS, a lot of customizations are there. So we need one resource for each option, or else for one option, multiple resource also required, or for all the options, one resource is enough. Okay, if these are related to finance or STM, this is how it totally depends to whom we are doing the implementation, what is the scope of the project, and what is the complexity of the project, and for how many countries we are going to do the implementation. The many things will come into the picture to decide this point. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Please.
So Lakshman, the instance which we are using is a SaaS instance or PaaS instance?
SaaS only. For training, we don't get PaaS, only SaaS. It's a cloud instance under SaaS. Any other questions? No.
One doubt, Lakshman here, like, so do we have any such type of like support type projects also in the fusion, or only implementations?
Support, see, definitely there should be support projects. See, once you do the implementation, client will start using that system, right? They'll start using that applications. And they face the issues, definitely they need consultant support. So we have a implementation projects. After implementation, definitely client should give support project to any consulting company. Same as EBS,
Because
we have a support.
Because in implementation projects, we will be having only two roles. One role is just for setup and configurations only. But later on, when we have done the implementation, the business user will start using the instance and doing the transactions.
Correct.
For transactions performance, they will be having the, I guess, they will be having the different roles.
Please make sure that there is no background noise from your end. If you have any questions, please take care of it. Too much noise. Okay. Yeah, if you have any questions, please. But please take care of the background noise. Okay, that's very important. Please go ahead. Go ahead. I think I don't remember.
I just wanted to know, like,
Yeah.
For this transactions related things, I guess business user might be having the different roles,
Yeah,
which
correct.
consultant cannot have. So how can
No.
we
When we are going to support, you can assign those roles to your user, because you have to verify that. See, you are working as you are doing the implementation, and you'll have access to those two roles. And once you done with that, other application roles also we have to assign to our user, because we have to create the transactions and we have to test, we have to present to the client and all. In the same way, once client will start using that application, So we will have access to all the roles because we are working as a consultant. We have to support if they have some issues. We'll assign the roles. You are going to work for payables support. So you will assign the payables role to your user. But when you are doing the implementation, so start with the setups and all, what roles are required we are discussing. Once we complete the setup, what are the other roles we require for each and every application, we will discuss. Yep.
I got it now. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Any other questions here, please? No questions. Fine. So this is the point we have to understand. In the Fusion applications, the product families we are calling as offerings and applications we are calling as options. When we do the implementation, based on the scope of implementation, the very first step what we have to do is we have to enable the offerings and options in every instance. So enable offerings and options. Okay, we have to enable the offerings and options. So you are going to do the implementation for your client taking the subscription for financials, SCM and procurement. Again in financials, which options, in SCM which options, and procurement which option. Accordingly you have to enable those three offerings, and within that what are the applications they are going to use, accordingly you have to enable the options. Once you enable the offerings and options, by selecting the required offerings and options, you can create the implementation project. You can create implementation project. Here, when you talk about implementation project, don't compare the real implementation project with this statement. Here, implementation project, create implementation project is nothing but we create implementation project by selecting offerings and options to manage the setups. That means to perform the setups, we are creating the implementation project. Okay, you don't compare this implementation project for entire project execution management or project lifecycle management. Those are totally different. Here we create implementation project to group the offerings and options so that within the project you will be able to do the setups. Simple point is to perform the setups and to manage the setups in the system environment. We have to create the implementation project. Oracle given the name as implementation project. Reality that can be setup project. Okay, or configuration project. We can simply call it as configuration project, but the name they given as implementation project. During the implementation to manage the setups, we can use this implementation project. Okay, so how to create implementation project? By selecting required offerings and options, we can create the implementation project. So when you are creating implementation project, the project can be assigned to any one of the resource. Okay, we have to assign the project to any one of the resource. Don't think when you say implementation project, this should be handled by project manager. This is only related to setups. So anyone can create this project who knows how to create the project. That's all. After creating implementation project, what you can do is which resource is going to work for which offering and which options, those you can assign to the team members. After creating implementation project, you can assign offerings or options to team members. Just for information purpose. So who is working for financials, who is working for SCM, who is working for procurement, or else finance, who is working for payables, who is working for receivables. That's how you can do the assignment, so that whenever you look at that project, easily you can understand. Anyone can just understand by looking at the project who is working for which offering, who is working for which option. So that's how you can assign offerings and options to team members. Once you assign offerings and options to team members, the team members can start working on the system. That means they'll start doing the setups. They'll do the system configuration. Okay. So they can, okay. they can do the system configuration. So once they start doing the system configuration, they can start updating the status. Say one consultant is started working on the financials, they can update the status. The financials, the progress, the status is in progress. Before they start doing the setups for financials, the status they can update as a not yet started. Once they start working on the financials, they can update the status as in progress. Once finance setups are completed, they can update the status as a completed. This is how every consultant who are working on the project, they'll be able to update the status whether they started working on the project or they are like not yet started the project, they completed the specific area of application related setups, they can update, so that they can do at offering level, they can do at option level. Within the option also we have a different task list, etc., that we'll see in the system only. Okay, we'll do that. So these are the points we have to notice. Any questions on this point, please? That means here, let me write the point. You can update the status of setups. Or setups means here it could be offering or option. When you are doing the payable related setups, payables is one of the option. Within that, say you have a 20 setups. Each setup wise also you can update the status. Say 10 setups you completed, you can update the status as a against those 10 setups. The status you can set as a completed. So this is how you will be able to update the status against the project. Within the project, we'll have offerings and options. You can just update accordingly. Any questions here, please?
So generally, these offerings or options are interrelated with each other, like dependency wise, while doing the setups.
Yeah, options will be inside of the offering. And when we are doing, say, take example of financials. In financials, if you want to do the payable setups, if payable setups has some dependency, system will give the information for us. When you are going to do some setup, if no dependency, it will allow you directly. Otherwise, in the system, it will show. If you want to complete so and so setup, these are the setups you have to complete first. The dependency it will show.
Okay.
Fine. That we can see in the system. Like you can system will display to complete so and so setups. These are the dependency setups which you have to complete. That's how it will show. Wherever no dependency, it will allow us directly to proceed with the setups.
So means it is not like every project is having the same number of setups for any option. It depends on the complexity or scenario wise how a client wants to get it implemented.
Yeah. See, you have a like you are doing implementation for two clients, client 1 and client 2. Client 1 and 2, you are going to do the implementation of financials. For two clients, whatever the projects you create, you will select financials. You will get same tasks in those projects. But how many setups you have to do, that depends on the client business requirement. Okay. So for first client, they are going to implement financials. As per their business requirement for entire financials, say they are going to use only 100 futures only. Accordingly, we'll do the setups. The other client is going to use 150 features from financials. You have to do the additional configuration for those 50 features. That's how we have to do the configuration.
Okay.
Yep. So any other questions here, please? Okay. Now we'll go and see, okay, how to enable the offerings and options, how to create implementation project, how to assign the offerings and options to team members, and how to update the status. We'll go through these simple points. Okay. From where we can do that? Again, I'll take the navigation. click on username. Okay, just click on username. Fine. Anyway, just let me add a few more points that everything we'll see in the one session. The other few points which you have to understand is, one is we have to enable the offerings and options in every fresh instance. Then you can create implementation project by selecting required offerings and options. We can assign the offerings and options to team members, and we can perform the system configuration. Accordingly, you can update and you can track the progress of the project. You can track the progress of the project. That means how much percentage of setups are completed, how many setups are pending, and how many resources are working, what is the status of the setups which need to be completed by those resources. And even you can set the due dates for the task what we are assigning. Say you are assigning financials to one consultant, and you can set the due date by which date the setups need to be completed. So this complete information you can track. And one more important point is, within the FSM, you can copy the setups from one instance to another instance. Say in one instance, you complete all the setups. The same setups you require in the other instance. Yes, you can copy the setups from one to other instance by using the concept called as configuration packages. Okay, by using configuration packages concept, you can copy the setups from one to other instance. So primarily this is what we can do, and apart from that you can generate the reports also. Reports related to setups. Okay, as we discussed, you can track the progress of the project that directly you can see in the FSM. Apart from that, you will be able to generate the reports also. So where in the report system will give the complete information which setups are completed and what is the status of each and every setup, which is related to specific offering or option what you are selecting at the time of report. So that complete information you can get. Apart from that, you can copy the setups from one to other instance. For that, you can use the configuration package. And in FSM, you can do the setups directly, or else you can do the setups from implementation project. If you do the setups by using the implementation project, then only you can use the configuration packages to copy the setups from one to other instance. The point is, you can do the setups without implementation project or with implementation project. If you do the setups with implementation project, the advantage is you can create the configuration packages so that you can move the setups from one to other instance. Without implementation project also you can do the setups. If you do the setups without implementation project, you cannot move those setups from one to other instance by using the concept called as configuration packages. So these are the points we have to understand related to FSM. Once we start working on FSM, you can there are a few other points which we have to discuss. So we'll see all those. Okay, any questions on these points, please? Any questions from anyone, please?
It's the last statement, Lakshman. You have just spoken one last statement regarding configuration packages. Please repeat it again.
Yeah, what is your question related to configuration packages?
Yes, you said last two statements, right? If you create using implementation project, you can move from one instance to another instance.
Correct.
Yeah. Please repeat the sentences.
That's it. See, if you create implementation project and if you do the setups, okay, those setups you can move from one to other instance by using the configuration package. Say you didn't create implementation project. Implementation project is not mandatory, not compulsory. So without creating implementation project, if you do the system configuration, you cannot move those setups from one to other instance. We will see that. We are just, as information I'm sharing, we didn't touch FSM and all, we didn't create anything. So how to create implementation?
Testing instance to
show you.
From testing instance to production instance, like that.
Sorry?
From testing instance to
Test instance to production or any instance. Just you can just take that example as test to production, or it could be test to development, or any environment you can take one to other. Here, just simply you can take test instance, you need all the setups, and you tested everything is working fine. The same setups you need in production. So you can create the configuration package to move the setups. This configuration package is only for setup data, not for transactional data. You cannot move the transactions data from one to other instance. This is only for setups. Without any technical people or DBA support, being a functional consultant, we can do it. It's very simple and a functional task. Yep.
Lakshman, a question from my end. I remember you mentioned that while creating the multiple countries primary ledger, and when we do a setup for a specific country,
one second. Multiple countries primary ledger we never discussed.
Lakshman, this is Abhijit. I am attending the other classes.
Maybe. Don't touch those points here. Okay. If you are attending these classes.
So my question is actually regard to the configuration package, because I have a confusion with that configuration package concept.
No. Here we should not discuss. It would be like you and me only. Wait for some time. Have the session.
Okay, then probably.
Please.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Any questions on these points, please?
Lakshman, could you please share your thoughts based on your experience, like how long any implementation project runs, and what is the general size of the team?
Yeah. Sure. It totally depends. Small, medium, large companies. If you take small and medium size companies, implementation, it takes 6 to 8 months. Okay. And again, generally you can find in 6 months. 6 months you can complete the implementation project, or 8 months. And again, totally depends. Okay. Whether you have only financials, SCM, procurement, or you have all, and whether again that is SaaS or PaaS. On an average, you can see in the most of the implementation project in case of cloud, 6 to 8 months duration. There are very big companies that implementation, it happens in multiple years. That means 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They'll do the implementation phase by phase. First, they'll do for one country. It may take 6 months or 10 months or 1 year or 2 years also for one country. That how complex that implementation, based on that you can say, but simply you cannot say that every implementation takes this much time. You could say some implementations can be finished in 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, okay, 1 year. On an average 6 to 8. That's it. You can take a small and mid-size implementations.
Like in EBS suite case, when we implement any project, so after implementation we do the supports also. Different teams.
Same here. See, simple point what we have to understand. In case of EBS, servers are managed by us, means client. Okay. Client can have their own server, and installation will be done by DBA. They'll take care of. But in case of Fusion, servers are maintained by Oracle. The rest, whatever consultants has to do with respect to implementation or support, that is there in case of cloud also. Okay. If no support, they cannot run the system also.
Good.
Yeah. Fine. Any other questions? Okay, from tomorrow we'll spend good amount of time. We'll start the session sharp 8 o'clock. We'll run the session up to 9:30. We'll spend complete 1.5 hour time for our session from tomorrow. But today we can wind up. If you have any questions, you can stay back and we can discuss.